Hi, my name's John Cordy, and the answer is no. What is the question, you say? Well, the question could be, have I ever driven on a bus that was unable to drop below sort of 55 miles per hour, sort of 50, 55 I think was the window, I don't know exactly how the bomb was calibrated, for fear of basically if it dropped below that and then the bomb was supposed to go off. Has that ever happened to me? No. And also, I guess the other... Here's Fenton. Coming in. And I guess the other question is, was Martin Miller wrong in what he's saying about building speed? So that's what I wanted to address in this video, and the answer to that is also no. So, I did the video earlier in the week, the Matteo Mancuso 137 note lick, and a couple of people actually reached out and said, what do you think of this video from Martin Miller? It appears that he's advocating something quite different to what you're saying, and also I guess what most people say, which is that you build speed incrementally. So, first of all, Martin Miller is a great guitarist, obviously that goes without saying, and I think we both have a similar background. Both of us grew up kind of playing Dream Theater and that sort of stuff, and were involved in the Petrucci forums, and then later got into some kind of jazz stuff. The reason I say that is because I'm pretty sure there's quite a shared sort of way that we practice stuff, and certainly the culture on the Petrucci forum there was a certain way that everyone used to practice, and for most of us it involved a metronome and incremental increases in speed. I think what people are taking from the video is not exactly what Martin is saying. So at various points in the video, Martin says that's not true and these sorts of things. So I wanted to just make clear what it is that he's saying that isn't true. So the student says at the start of the video, so many people say that if you focus on accuracy, speed will come. Martin says that's untrue, completely false, categorically, and then by that definition, learning to walk is going to make you a faster sprinter. The point is that he's arguing against the notion that if you just focus on accuracy, speed will come. So what I would say is that the reason that people say to focus on accuracy is because the temptation is to push speed way before you ever get that thing actually under your fingers properly. That for me is why I've said to people in the past, just focus on accuracy. What it basically means is you're not playing that right slow anyway, so you don't need to worry about playing it right fast. So if you can't play the thing consistently 5 times in a row without making a mistake at a slower tempo, you're not really walking anyway, so there's no point in trying to run. That's what I mean when I say focus on accuracy, and I feel like that's probably generally what people mean when they say focus on your accuracy. Guthrie Govan said it, focusing on accuracy and cleanliness and making sure that you're playing things consistently and your fingers are moving in a consistent way every time that you play whatever that exercise is, should be the focus before you try and push the speed. So later in the video, Martin also says he both practiced with exercises and learned songs that demanded more speed. So if you're practicing an exercise, generally the way that starts off is slow while you learn the exercise, and then you gradually increase the speed. There's nothing in this video that Martin says that contradicts that. And at 1 minute and 17 into the video, he says to his student, I told you to practice slow to figure out the technique. To get faster, no. So the point being that Martin's advice still for a student is to practice that thing very slow until you learn the technique. At 1 minute 30, he says gradually increase your speed. It's not true, which seems a bit strange because what he's given examples of later on are incrementally increasing a tempo. He does it by degrees of 10 BPM. So to me that's a gradual increase, so I'm not exactly sure. At 4 minutes 45, he says as soon as your fundamental technique is good, you push it, and then you don't worry about cleanliness, go faster than you can. So I think this is more or less the same as anyone would say when they're saying about this stuff. So you start off at 60 BPM, and when you learn the thing whatever the passage of music is, if you're learning it at a super slow tempo, your ceiling is going to feel like about 60 BPM for a while. You play it many times at 60 BPM. Then what you do is gradually increase that. So gradual may mean different things for different people. Sometimes, depending on the lick, I might increase it by 1 BPM, 2 BPM a go. If it's a more familiar lick, I might increase it by 10 BPM. But it's not a sudden, doubling of speed. I think that's kind of the point, is that you're learning the thing slow, and then you're gradually increasing the tempo, not sudden jumps in tempo. He says things like you need to do the same thing right at the high tempos. If you're too clean, then you're not pushing yourself, which is not something I disagree with again, but the aim will be to clean up that playing. So when you first push up 5 or 10 BPM, probably it's not going to be as clean as it was, but that's why we do the practice slower and then gradually increase. In the video, he's playing these kind of exercises that probably derive from John Petrucci's rock discipline, which are that kind of thing. So if I were to say to you, that's what I want you to play, I'm thinking it wouldn't take you too long to figure out that that's 4 consecutive notes on a fretboard and then jumping up a string and your alternate picking. And so that's what he's ending up practicing. So he plays it initially at 190 BPM, then what he does is incrementally jumps up at 10 BPM until he finds a speed that he's less comfortable with, which ends up being 220. So he does like short bursts at that tempo and takes little breaks to rest hands. And also what he does is he plays it at half time to make sure that he's got the technique right. If you watch that video closely and listen to the actual advice and the little bits of stuff that he's saying in there, I don't think it's actually that different to what everyone else basically would tell you. As I say, I think the point of people saying to focus on accuracy rather than speed is because speed basically becomes the main focus before you've even got the thing under your fingers. So for instance, this Matteo Mancuso lick that I'm talking about, earlier in the week when I was doing it, I was practicing it at 100 BPM. It was around roughly where I could play it. And until I can consistently do that at 100 BPM and the technique feels right and I can consistently play it correctly, I can push the metronome all I want, but probably I'm not going to really make much of a gain at any kind of sensible rate. So I'm working on trying to play those things consistently before I push the tempo. So yesterday I think I got it up to about 124 or the start of yesterday, and then by the end of yesterday it was around 140. But so let's push it up to 120. So less accurate, but most of it was roughly right. Let's go to 130. This stuff takes time, and basically, yeah. So that's at 140. I can try and push it a bit further, but you'll see that basically things are falling apart a little bit more. So I can try and push it again, so we'll be reaching 150 now, so I'm going to do it at half tempo as well. So this is something that happens in this video which I think is super worthwhile. So if you're playing the thing at 150 BPM, practice playing it half time and full speed. This is something that I do tell people to try. And then switch. Yeah. So, but you see the point, there becomes this kind of time when you're not really getting any better at playing the lick, you're just pushing your hands faster and faster, and it doesn't necessarily get you any closer to playing that thing. So at that point there, I'd slow back down again to something that was more comfortable. Let's just try it one more time and see if we can. Yeah, so what Martin Miller is saying is not wrong, but I think it's easily misunderstood. So what he's not saying is that you can skip that massive part of the practice, which I think is the main chunk that you need to do, which is learning to play that thing consistently and correctly at a very slow tempo. Once that's out of the way, yes, what you then need to do is push that on incrementally, so that you're finding a tempo that you can play it, and then you start to find the boundary of where you cannot play it, and that is kind of where the practice area is. And each day that moves essentially, and that's what we mean when we say you increase your speed gradually. Because one day for me that was 100 BPM, the next day it was around 124, and here today it's around 140, 150. But you can see I'm not making massive leaps suddenly and finding that I can suddenly play fast. That's basically not how it works. You're building the bedrock foundation of it and focusing on that being super accurate before you can even really think about pushing the speed, especially if it's a long lick like this. If it was something mindless and relatively technically simple, so yes, you could chuck that up at whatever tempo you like, and yes, that would make sense then that you could push that tempo much quicker than if you're learning a very long lick or a very complicated lick, or something that's going to take you a long time to figure out that technique. So that's probably why you might want to think about taking shorter phrases at a time and building speed with those shorter phrases, such as. But if you're thinking about trying to get a really long lick up speed, I don't think Martin Miller would argue any differently. The steps would be you'd learn it super slow, and over a period of probably days, if it's something really difficult, maybe weeks, maybe months, you gradually increase where that boundary is, the boundary between you being able to play it cleanly and pushing yourself. That's, I think, what he means. I think probably it's a little bit open to potentially misinterpretation, but I think that's roughly what we're talking about. To use the analogy of, you know, walking and running, you don't learn to run by walking. Yes and no. You don't learn to run before you can walk either. So what I'm saying, and I think what most people are saying, is focus a lot of attention on the walking part, i.e. the playing thing slowly and accurately, before you think about trying to push it to a running pace. I think hopefully that clears up some of that. As I say, there's not anything really in the Martin Miller video that I disagree with. I just think potentially there's bits in there that are sort of glossed past a little bit, and that you might have missed on first viewing. The point that I think he's arguing is that if you just focus on accuracy, the speed won't come. And yes, I agree with that. But the reason that we generally say focus on the accuracy part is because people are always quite focused on pushing the speed anyway. That seems to be kind of the ego-driven thing. So if you say to someone focus on your accuracy, you're really saying, look, you've not learned that part accurately yet and your technique isn't consistent with it. I think that's what the advice might be. Anyway, hopefully that was useful. There's a buy me a coffee link just in case you got something useful out of that video. I think it's interesting to talk about these kind of ideas and bounce them around each other in the guitar community. That video is something I saw a few years ago. Again, nothing that I really disagree with. I just think that there's different messages that you could take from it that I don't know if they were intended that way. But yeah, if you could like and subscribe, that would really help out. Go check out Martin Miller's playing if you haven't already. There's a tune that he's got called An End in Itself, which is one of my favourite guitar tunes. But yeah, that's definitely one worth checking out. Go check out Martin Miller's An End in Itself. But yeah, great guitarist. I just think that potentially when people are commenting to me and saying, you know, do you disagree with this? No, I don't really disagree with it. There's just these few points that I think are worth highlighting in that video. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in another video soon. Cheers.